In this short video, I want to talk about some of the features and improvements that have been added to the 090 release of the Visual Studio Code extension for Cake. Now, one of the first things that you'll notice in this release is that we've actually removed the custom syntax highlighting that the extension was providing for Cake files. This is due to the fact that Visual Studio Code itself actually now provides very, very good syntax highlighting for C# files. So out of the box now, we can take advantage of that syntax highlighting because of the fact that we're now within Visual Studio Code itself identifying a .cake file as a C# file. That was necessary for enabling some of the debugging and Intellisense support that will come in future versions. But for now, what to be aware of is that the syntax highlighting that you do get for .cake files in Visual Studio Code is coming from Visual Studio Code itself, not from the extension. So what you'll see here is this build.cake file. All the important parts are highlighted, the method names, the comments, the logical structure and keywords are all being identified within the syntax highlighting. So if I go ahead now and install the cake file, you'll see that that won't change anything from that respect because it's already been provided by Visual Studio Code itself. One of the main features that has been added in this release is a series of snippets that have been added into the extension. So now, if I start a build.cake file and I just type cake, you'll see that there's a number of snippets here that are available for you to utilize. For example, if you needed to add an add-in declaration, you can just very quickly add the use a snippet to provide the add-in, and then you've got tab support to tab through the name and the version number. Or if you wanted to provide a full add-in that includes a URL to the NuGet server that you want to pull that package down from, you can provide that there, and again you can tab through the existing ones. So it's the exact same thing for an argument. We can tab through an argument definition and then load again. One of the interesting ones though is that if we go ahead and get rid of all of these lines I've added in now, one of the examples that we can type here is a complete sample. So if you're wanting to just get up and running with all the standard functions and tasks that you would have within a cake script, you can do that out of the box here. Here's it's defining the setup, the teardown, a default task, and then the run target at the bottom. So you can quite quickly get up and running with the sample build.cake file there. One of the other things that we've added is we've extended the number of commands that we have here. Before, in an earlier version, what we had was install a bootstrapper, install the debug dependencies, install a configuration file. I think that was it. So in this release, what we've added is we've added this install Intellisense support. So before we get too excited, this actually doesn't enable Intellisense support in this release of 090. What we're actually waiting on there is a new release of the actual OmniSharp extension for Visual Studio Code, and that will hopefully be coming soon. But what this command will do for you right now is it will download and install into the tools folder the cake.bakery NuGet package. And this is really what makes Intellisense support light up within Visual Studio Code using OmniSharp. So to quite quickly get up and running and using that, you can utilize the new command that we've added to that. The other one that we've added and we're quite happy with is this concept of the install to Workspace. So individually, as you're setting up a new project within Visual Studio Code to run Cake, you can you can run the command to install the bootstrapper, you can run the command to set up a sample cake file, you can run the command to do the debug dependencies. But this one is kind of more of a guided walkthrough in that it will it'll go through all the steps. So you could set up a cake file, you can say yes, you want to install the bootstrappers, you can say yes that you want to install a configuration file, you can say yes that you want to download the debugging dependencies. Now, because I'd already done that, it was prompting me to say that what do I want to do in that scenario, so I can override that. So I'm going to go ahead and override the build.ps1, and then it's telling me that it's done all of those things. So quite quickly, using that kind of what we refer to as the aggregate command, you can download and set up all of the necessary components for getting started with your Cake project. So yeah, those are the main features that we've added in. The last one that I want to talk about is the concept of debugging again. So in the last video for the 0.80 release, we spoke about the concept of debugging support using the Cake Core CLR DLL for debugging using .NET Core. What we've now added, if I go ahead and hit F5 here, you'll see that there's now two entries for Cake. One is the Cake Core CLR, which is exactly as was described in the previous video, but this other one is Cake for Mono. So what this will do is it will actually attempt to debug through Visual Studio Code using the underlying Mono framework. So the reason this is important is if you are writing a Cake script on, say, a Mac or on a Linux machine, you won't have full .NET framework on there in order to run a Cake script that maybe has add-ins that will only work on full framework rather than .NET Core. So what this allows you to do is to initiate the debugging using Mono. Now, in order for that to work, though, you do have to have a couple of dependencies on top of the Cake extension. The first one that I should have installed already here is the Mono debugger itself. So if I do a search for here for Mono, you'd want to install the Visual Studio Code debugger extension for Mono. So I've got that installed. On top of that, you'd obviously need to have Mono installed on your machine as well. So when you then hit F5 to start the debugging experience, you're then using Mono to do the actual debugging. So that should work on all machines that Mono supports, and it will allow you to debug add-ins that target full framework, where you wouldn't have been able to do that before. You would have had to go on to Visual Studio in order to do that work. So hopefully that's going to be of use to a lot of people. If there are any questions about anything that's in this release, feel free to reach out. And if there's anything else you want to know about these kind of releases, please feel free to let us know as well. Thank you very much.